Introduction to for loops and list comprehensions.
Then we define the for loop, and then we define the conditional. Both of these lists should have same outputs. As you can see on line 10 and 11, I've defined the output. 0, 2, 4, 6, 8 should be the output of both of these lists. We run this code, and that is the answer that we're looking for. So once that's done, we move on to our next example. Again, but before that, this was an application filtration aspect of list comprehension. So we can filter through our entries within lists. So the next document that we can focus on is our creating lists based on strings, basically, and using list comprehension on string-based lists. So in the traditional approach from line 1 to 5, first we define our test case, which is a list with words that we're going to perform actions on. So under that we have 3 words: hello world Python. On line 3 we define a variable with empty with an empty list, and line 4 we define the for loop, and on line 5 we append the word after using the upper function on it to make it capitalized, and then we append it to the empty uppercase words list. That's how you do it traditionally, and that again, that's completely fine. Rather, in some cases, encouraged to just use that because it's it's not as convoluted and as list comprehensions can become sometimes, with all conditions that you might want to add within that. So line 7 and 8 we do the same thing through list comprehension. So here within square brackets, we first is what is going to go into the list. So word dot upper. So the word we want to uppercase that word, that's going to go into the list. Then the for loop for word and words. Again, very simple. We've done this 2 times previously before. On line 10 and 11, we define print both of the lists, and we should expectly get capitalized hello world Python on the console output, and that's the answer we're getting. So with that out of the way, we come back to the question that was asked right at the start. Whether can we use if-else statements within list comprehensions to create more complex and conditional statements? Now, if you were listening even half as carefully previously to me on this video, you'll have a very clear-cut answer to that. Because you should know at this point whether you can use if conditions in list comprehensions. But yes, you can use them. We use that in the filter list file that we went through earlier. But that was more so in context to explain exactly what list comprehensions were here. Now that we understand what list comprehensions are, now we need to leverage how we can use these different bits and pieces within list comprehension. So for that, we go to the basic if.py file. Here we use the first logic that we used at the first file. We're going to square the x number to find and add that to the list. But here, the catch here is that we're filtering for even squared numbers. So x square is the value that's going to go into the list. For x in range 10 is our for loop, and if x modulus 2 equals to 0 is our condition for that's our condition to check if the squared number is even or not, basically, or rather we're just looking for even numbers and then squaring them. So we print this, run this file, and we get the answer we needed. Now, an important element to note here, again, I want you to focus on the structure. X star star 2, the first argument within list comprehension, is the element that's going to go into the list, right? That element, and if we, or at all we want, if or when or at all we want any modification of that element before it's added to the list. In this case, we're just squaring the number before adding that to the list. Then the for loop, again, as usual, for loop is going to be the second argument within the list comprehension. And third is the if-else statement. In this case, if x modulus 2 equals to 0. So basically, that's that's all you need to know on how you can use if-else statements on list comprehensions. And there's a very simple answer to that. But again, let's go over two more examples to get more familiar with the situation of if else statements within list comprehensions. Again, the more code you see, the more you review that, the more you pause the video and take a look at that, the more you type it out, the better you get and internalize this concept and these notions. So the next example is an if conditional statement in the ifcon.py. So here we are going to check for even and odd numbers, and we're going to use if else statement, both if and else statements. So in this case, we use if and else statements before any other object. So even is going to be the number, the word that's going to come right at the start, if x modulus 2 equals to 0. So this is the if statement, and how you need to set up the if statement in a list comprehension. The part that I've highlighted on line 2. And else odd is the portion that I've highlighted right now, is the portion that is basically going to be, is not divisible by 2 with a remainder, no zero remainder, but rather it's an odd number, so we declare it as odd. And again, in this case, no number goes in because we're saying even and odd goes into the list, not the digits themselves. We then create a for loop from for x in range 10, and then we print this, and we get our answer of all the even numbers and odd numbers by category being defined within this list. Now that we're done with that, let's move on to the last one of our if-else statements within list comprehensions, and that is basically nested conditionals. So here on line 2, we define a variable called results. The first argument is we square the value of x before we feed it into the we square the value of x before we feed it into the list, as you can see. And if it's even, we square the value. If you can focus on line 2, and if it's not even, then we just cube the number, and then we have again the for statement. It's exactly the same as the previous slide, and we then print the result, and we should get our answer correctly. Do run control on your logics to confirm the answers. I've already done that before, and I'm reviewing my answers in code based on that information. So always have control statements when you're generating code to see if your logic actually materializes. With that, I think we have a wrap on list comprehensions. Again, let us know in our comments what we could have done better, any ideas or topics that you might want us to work on, and if you got any value from this video, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Before we wrap up, George, do you want to add anything at the end?
No, I think you covered everything very proficiently. Thanks, guys.